he's like, well, in Georgia, you're both going to come into the courtroom. You're going to make your case, talk to the judge, and then the judge is probably going to order one of you to be a primary parent, which means you're going to get 80% of the time with the child. You're going to get all decision-making authority with the child. You're going to get a fat child support check for the next 18 years or however long the child is alive, right? And you're basically going to have full control over the terms of how that other parent accesses the child, what extracurriculars the child does, where the child goes to school, medical decisions, all that, the whole thing, right? And so you hear that and you're like, well, wait a second. You just told me, or the judge just told me that, like, we don't pick winners and losers here. This is about the best interest of the child. But then when you laid out the process to me, it sounds like you're picking a winner. And then the next logical step of that is like, well, I want to be the winner, right? So how do I get to be the winner? And it turns into mudslinging. I prove that I'm a better parent than you. You didn't pick up the kids. You didn't go to the doctor's appointments. You didn't, and I did this. And then now we just escalated, and nobody cares what the best interest of the child is anymore. You're just trying to prove that you're the better parent, right?
Yeah, the winner. That's it.
Right, exactly. You're trying to prove you're the winner. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't change. The weird part, so I'm on the law side of things. You did everything I've seen that you've put out has been a lot of like the studies that are needed to be brought in court that realistically should be brought into court every single time. Like, hey, let's put all the mudslinging aside and let's look at the facts, right? These studies have happened for years. On the law side of things, when I look at people going into court, the first thing I think of is the Supreme Court ruled on Troxel v. Granville that parents have a fundamental right. And when you take that for what it is, what's a fundamental right? That means that I am above everybody else when it comes to this, both of us, right? So when the court started posing the unrealistic rulings and the ideas of a winner and a loser, it's like, well, where did my fundamental right go? And now we're diving into realms of things that don't make sense. We're diving into 14th Amendment violations of due process because in my due process, I have a fundamental right, and you're saying that there's a winner and a loser.
We've set up a guilty until proven innocent mentality here.
Right. And then the burden of proof. What is the burden of proof in custody? It's the preponderance of evidence. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt, like criminal cases. Have you heard of the silver bullet?
Oh yeah. Now fortunately, that was actually not a major component of my case, but I've got several friends, heard lots of stories about which is and again, to your point, if we're talking burden of proof and it's just a preponderance of evidence, if you're talking 51%, somebody looking at a piece of paper and saying that looks legit, it's convincing, custody goes here or whatever.
But it's got a TPO attached to it, temporary protection order.
Yep.
Doesn't that fall under criminal?
Yeah.
So it should be beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
So you look at the law side of things, and like these arguments that we're seeing in court doesn't make sense at all.
Well, and it's such a weird blurring of lines in family court specifically, especially when you do get things like that, like the silver bullet, these allegations being made against one parent, or TPOs, domestic violence, or whatever it is. It's to me, it's such a weird blurring of the lines, because in most civil cases, like the end result is there's going to be a payout, you owe him $1 million and then we'll cut ties, everybody's going to move on or whatever. And then obviously in criminal court, there's been some sort of criminal violation, somebody got hurt or killed or robbed or whatever the worst case is. But a lot of times in these family courts, you'll have exactly this, right? Where there's like a criminal component that bleeds over into this civil side, and you almost have to pause for a second and you're like, are we addressing criminal matters here, or are we addressing